Remembering Connie, the 11-year-old girl killed at a friend's sleepover. Her heartbroken father tells ITV News of his anguish at the loss of his precious daughter.
Just how good she felt to hold, and how safe she made me feel.
So tonight, fighting on the forecourt as the government claims the crisis is starting to improve. Farewell to World Cup winner Roger Hunt, the unsung hero of '66. And Mr. Bond, we've been expecting you. The red carpet rolls out at last for 007.
We've made a very beautiful movie and I can't wait for people to see it.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. We start tonight with a grieving father's tribute to his 11-year-old daughter, killed during a sleepover along with her best friend. Charlie Gent told ITV News he wakes every morning hoping his daughter Connie is still alive. And she was one of 4 people killed at a house in Killamarsh near Sheffield just over a week ago. Mr. Gent wants everyone to know how special his daughter was and about the bond they shared. He told our correspondent Ben Chapman Connie would light up any room.
Connie had the ability to always make me smile. She was like my best friend. There are no words. I'm gonna miss my baby girl.
It is just 9 days since Charlie Gent was told his 11-year-old daughter Connie was one of 4 people who'd been killed during a sleepover at her best friend's house.
Connie was, well, one of the nicest girls you'll ever meet, I suppose. She was special. She could have been anything she wanted to be. I'd rather it be me than her. Yeah, she got a whole life out of it.
Charlie had been told just a few hours after Connie's body was discovered at the house in Killamarsh in Derbyshire last week.
Since I found out, it doesn't even feel real. I wake up every morning and hope. Yeah, it's all been a bad nightmare, but yeah, it hasn't.
Connie's best friend Lacey Bennett was also killed that night. They'd spent their last day setting up a sweet stall to raise money for charity. They would often sleep over together, not something her father ever worried about.
The last thing you think of, innit, when, like, your daughter's sleeping out, they're having a good time, aren't they? Not a million ways round. You could try and change it or change the events leading up to it. Place blame everywhere you want, but I don't know. It'll eat you alive, I think, in the end, won't it?
Charlie says he wants people to know about the fun times he had with the daughter he's lost and wanted to be interviewed to urge parents to value their time with their kids. He never knew his most recent day with Connie would be their last.
Anything you remember about that day?
Yeah, just how good she felt to hold, and how safe she made me feel.
He says he can now only treasure the memory of every day they spent together. A man's been charged with Connie's murder, along with that of Lacey, her brother John Paul Bennett and their mother Terry Harris. What happened here was the unimaginable nightmare of any parent, and I was moved today by the enormous courage of Charlie Gent, his determination to tell people about the future that was taken from his daughter Connie that night.
Ben Chapman in Killamarsh, thank you. OK, let's move on now to other news. And the Prime Minister tonight insisted the fuel crisis is starting to improve, with more petrol stations now fully stocked. Boris Johnson denied it was necessary to prioritise key workers, despite reports that many sectors are still struggling to cope. The queues at the pumps have seen anger and frustration boil over, as our political correspondent Carl Dinnan reports.
As petrol station stocks have run low, so tempers have run high. This man apparently pulling a knife in East London before ending up on the bonnet of the car. But a short time ago, the Prime Minister suggested it wasn't necessary to prioritise essential workers.
We now are starting to see the situation improve. We're hearing from industry that supplies are coming back onto the forecourts in the normal way. And I would just really urge everybody to just go about their business in the normal way and fill up in the normal way when you really need it.
But some essential workers are struggling to do that, leaving schools, like this one in Derby, on the verge of sending pupils home.
There's a number of factors at play that mean that we are right on the tipping point with our staffing levels in terms of teachers in the building. And if we end up with another couple of staff potentially off tomorrow, we will need to think about closing to year groups, which is disappointing.
This petrol station in Hertfordshire is already letting NHS and emergency workers fill up first.
We are prioritising anyone working for NHS with the badge. Please come with the badge. Don't come and say I'm just working, because it's not fair for the other people.
Petrol retailers believe the situation is improving, having surveyed members this morning.
37% of those sites were dry, so that's a good news actually, because when we did a similar sort of call round on Sunday, the number was more like 75%.
So far, queuing drivers have mixed views about who is to blame. Do you hold anyone responsible for all of this?
Yep, everybody that voted Brexit, frankly. It's caused all the problems with staff shortages.
It's the same thing as this toilet roll thing, isn't it? Or, you know, people have just gone mad. Absolutely crazy, filling cans up and everything.
The media, yeah. If they hadn't have said that there was a fuel shortage, we wouldn't be in this mess. So.
Apparently there isn't a fuel shortage.
Well, apparently there's not, no, but you tell the queues that.
But once the fuel queues have camped down, the government will still be left with a shortage of lorry drivers to fill. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Westminster.
Now, fuel is very much a lifeline for many, especially those in the care sector. Care workers rely on transport to help vulnerable people who rely on them. And as our UK editor Paul Brand reports, delays and disruption can be really devastating for both patients and carers alike.
So no fuel at that one?
Nope.
It's just past dawn and fuel's not the only thing Michelle's running low on.
It's just been a nightmare because we don't have time in between clients to stop.
Time lost looking for diesel in Hemel Hempstead means she's already 15 minutes behind on her care round.
Oh yes, this is the queue.
Waiting at this garage is about to delay her further.
Does this throw you out for the rest of the day now then, Michelle?
Yeah, it would make me late for every client. They need their dinner, they need their lunch, they need pad changes, and it's just had a big knock-on effect.
Number 2.
OK.
She does finally get to the front, but Michelle is now an hour late for her first call.
Morning, Vera.
It's a delay 94-year-old Vera cannot afford.
Did you sleep well? No.
She's now lying in a wet bed.
You just lay there and just got to turn your head and see when anyone's coming.
You're just lying there waiting? Well, it's just gone 10 o'clock now and the queue is twice as long as when Michelle filled up this morning. She's going to have to come through this traffic to get to her next appointment, and here they have now run out of diesel. Locally, there are contingency plans in place to get key workers to the front of this line, but councils tell me they need central government to activate them.
We might have to cover one of your calls. Or look
Back at head office, another carer's low on petrol as the whole sector runs short of patients.
If we had priority for the healthcare workers, emergency services, I think that would just clear all of this out. But at the moment, as you've just heard, she's tried all 3 local stations, nothing.
Bye, Vera.
Carers hope petrol pumps will be replenished in the coming days. There are some things clients like Vera cannot afford to run dry of. Paul Brand, ITV News, Hemel Hempstead.
Well, the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer today defended his response to the fuel crisis, insisting that he has been holding the government to account. Ahead of his keynote speech to the Labour Party conference tomorrow, he told ITV News that Boris Johnson has lost his grip. But Sir Keir has some work to do to win over everyone in his party. A shadow cabinet minister quit yesterday in a row over increasing the minimum wage to £15 an hour. Sir Keir spoke to our political editor, Robert Peston.
Strolling along the Brighton prom, the Labour leader who wants to persuade you he's a credible Prime Minister, but who in recent days has seemed preoccupied with changing his party rather than responding to what's bothering most of us.
ITV's been banging on about the crisis at the pumps for days. Why have you been so silent about it?
We haven't been silent about it. We've had people out every day, and, you know, what's happened is the government has reduced the country to chaos.
So what fundamentally do you think the government's done wrong? Is this Brexit?
I think the government needs to get a grip, prioritise key workers, and today ensure that there are enough visas for lorry drivers to get our country moving again.
So is that visa problem a failure of Boris Johnson's Brexit?
It's a failure of planning. Once the decision
You
was
won't say the Brexit word.
I'm about to. Once the decision had been taken to exit the EU, then it was obvious that we needed to deal with the consequences, and the government has simply put its head in the sand. He's completely lost grip.
Do you feel closer to Corbyn or to Blair?
I never indulge in these similarities.
But then how are people going to understand what your values are?
But my job is not to replicate what some past leader has done. My job is to take our Labour Party, change it. If you've lost 4 elections in a row, you need to change.
You've got an opportunity to vote on the minimum wage this afternoon. Are you going to be voting personally for £15 an hour?
Well, we have set out our policy.
But how are you going to vote?
I will vote, of course, in accordance with the policy that we unveiled on Saturday.
So not for £15 an hour?
We were very clear on Saturday, a £10 minimum wage, which is a 12% increase.
An election could come any time from next spring. Voters don't know you. In one sentence, tell them who you are.
I am someone utterly focused on the core things that matter to working families, and they are a decent education for your children, a decent job near home that is high paid, high skilled and has security, a health service if you fall ill, and security, whether that's at the home, a place you can actually afford to live, or in our streets with the antisocial behaviour actually coming down rather than spiralling as it is under this government.
Slightly more than one sentence, but...
Well, whether it's one sentence or not.
Tomorrow, he'll have a whole hour to tell us what he's all about. Probably the most important speech of his life.
See you later,
Robert Peston, ITV News.
A look at other news now. And Boris Johnson has promised to appoint a chair for the public inquiry into the COVID pandemic by Christmas. During a meeting with bereaved families in Downing Street, he also pledged to involve them in the decision. Scotland's controversial new vaccine passport system will not be enforced until 2 weeks after its introduction. The scheme, which requires people going to nightclubs and other large events to be fully vaccinated, will come into effect from 5 a.m. this Friday. Now, the man accused of murdering the primary school teacher Sabina Nessa appeared in court today for the first time. Kochi Selamai, a 36-year-old delivery driver, appeared at Willesden Magistrates Court. He is accused of attacking Sabina as she walked through a park in south-east London. And Keady is at the scene tonight. Chloe, what exactly happened today?
Well, today we both saw and heard from the man accused of Sabina Nessa's murder. She was killed as she walked through this park 11 days ago. It was a Friday night. Sabina was on her way to the pub to meet a friend, but she was attacked within minutes of leaving her home. 36-year-old Albanian national Kochi Selamai appeared in court today charged with her murder. He was in the dock for just a few minutes. He wore a grey tracksuit and a blue face mask, and he appeared calm as he spoke without the help of his translator to confirm his name and his home address. That home address in Eastbourne in East Sussex has been the focus of intensive police activity since Selamai was arrested there in the early hours of Sunday morning. He will appear at the Old Bailey for a plea hearing at the end of next month, and his solicitor indicated today that he intends to plead not guilty.
OK, Chloe Keady, thank you. So to come, the ITV Evening News.
Obviously, I don't get my licence back till December, so I can't just whiz in the car down there, and it's not close.
Keady Price is reportedly involved in a car crash just hours after appearing on GMB. Her family says she is getting the help she needs. And what could be more British than Bond and Brollies on a wet Tuesday night?
I'm feeling cold, I have to say. Glad the rain has stopped. But no, I'm so excited. This film is really genuinely fantastic.
Those stories and more after the break. Join me then. And welcome back. The grace and the goals of England World Cup winner Roger Hunt have been remembered today after he died at the age of 83. He played in the '66 final and was England's closest witness to that controversial third goal, which he always insisted was over the line. The forward also helped Liverpool to 3 league titles. Our sports editor Steve Scott looks back at his spectacular career.
Roger Hunt was an ever-present in England's World Cup winning team. He scored 3 times on the way to the final. And in that final, he was the closest to Geoff Hurst's controversial goal and always said he instantly turned away to celebrate because the ball had definitely crossed the line. A modest and unassuming man, he was one of the most prolific strikers of the time. In 2000, following a campaign to recognise the 66 heroes who hadn't been honoured, Hunt was awarded an MBE. Receiving it from the Queen, it was the 3rd time he'd met her.
Well, it's very special because it's very rare that, you know, I would imagine there's not many people who've done that.
At his club, Liverpool, they had actually knighted him years earlier. He was known affectionately by fans as Sir Roger. His phenomenal league scoring record stands to this day. During his 11 years there, he won 3 league titles, an FA Cup, and was the club's top scorer for 8 years running.
What a wonderful gentleman he was. What a great friend. And I was able to say colleague, and it was absolutely fantastic. He was truly an amazing man, and he thoroughly deserved his nickname, Sir Roger Hunt.
A giant mural outside Anfield commemorates Hunt's most famous Liverpool goal in 1965 that helped the club to win its first ever FA Cup. Roger Hunt's death, after a long illness, leaves only 3 surviving members of England's World Cup winning team.
Remembering Roger Hunt, who has died at the age of 83. Now, the family of Keady Price have revealed their concerns about her mental health after she was reportedly involved in a car crash. In a statement, the family said they hope she realised she cannot battle her issues alone. Well, Neil Connery's here. What's behind this, Neil?
Well, this news emerging that a car crash involving the celebrity Keady Price took place early this morning in Sussex, which left her in hospital. Now, it happened hours after she appeared on Good Morning Britain, where she spoke about her difficulty visiting her son Harvey because it's understood she had been banned from driving. Now, this is what she had to say.
Obviously, I don't get my licence back till December, so I can't just whiz in the car down there, and it's not close.
Now, Sussex police say a woman who was 43 was arrested on suspicion of driving while above the legal limit for alcohol and drugs and has been taken to hospital to be checked over. We've had a statement from Keady Price's family this evening saying, as a family, we have for some time been concerned about Kate's well-being and overall mental health. Today, our worst fears nearly came true. As a family, we have been and will continue to help Katie get the help she needs.
OK, Neil Connery, thank you.
Learned this,
in other news, the train operator
father.
South Eastern has been stripped of its franchise, over £25 million of undeclared taxpayer cash. The Transport Secretary suggested the company had broken trust. Services will now be run by the government, but there'll be no change for staff or passengers. And armed police have been criticised after shooting dead a rare white stag running amok in Bootle. The RSPCA had asked for the animal to be left alone to find its way back home, but Merseyside police said that would have been dangerous to the public. And finally, and perhaps another sign of how life is returning to normal, James Bond is back with the latest movie premiering tonight in a rainy Royal Albert Hall. No Time to Die has certainly taken its time to be released, but fans will be anxious to see Daniel Craig's final outing as 007. Here's Martha Fairley on what we can all expect.
As premieres go, it couldn't be more British. Brolly's Bond and a project delayed by more than a year. For the fifth and final time, Daniel Craig is back as 007, reunited with the cast on the red carpet.
I'm feeling cold, I have to say. Glad the rain has stopped. But no, I'm so excited. This film is really genuinely fantastic. And I'm so excited for fans to see it.
But while Bond tries to save the world in No Time to Die, can this movie save cinema?
I don't know. It's up to the film gods to decide that. I'm not, all I know is that we've made a very beautiful movie, and I can't wait for people to see it.
Name? Bond. James Bond.
Daniel Craig made his debut as James Bond 15 years ago, and who will replace him is still the subject of much speculation.
The world's moved on, Commander Bond.
You were 00?
2 years.
But in this film, Bond is joined by Nomi, the franchise's first female black 00.
The mere fact that Nomi's been written, she was even an idea, I think just is a real example of how far the franchise has come, but also how far the industry's come. There's a lot in this movie that I look forward to people seeing. I can't talk about it right now, but yeah, you'll definitely be intrigued to where they're going to go, but also feel empowered with the women in this franchise.
And for Rami Malek playing Safin, the latest villain to face Bond, there's no doubt the British spy still has universal appeal.
It's the greatest franchise in the world, there's no question about it. It's one you can share with your kids, your grandparents. It transcends any generational gap.
No Time to Die is one final mission for the longest-serving James Bond, as Daniel Craig goes out with the bang. Martha Fairley, ITV News.
And that is it for now. Raggy's here with news at 10 from me and all the team here. Bye-bye.